Right, but have you heard this one though? Death, death to the IDF. 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 Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be.
So that was a little song by the British punk rapper Bob Vylan, also known as Pascal Robinson Foster. Apparently he was dropped from his label and had his American visa revoked because of this. My first thoughts when I heard about this is, one, who is this guy? Literally never heard of his music before. Two, is this a bogus reason to revoke someone's visa? Yeah. Am I sad he's not coming to the US? No. He's a massive, really anti-Western, far left-wing progressive. But apparently not everyone got the memo about this because Jake Shields accidentally thought he was cool. The left-wing basis for anti-Zionism is anti-colonialism and intersectionality. The reason these left progressives have sided with the Palestinians in this conflict is because they view the Israelis as having a greater degree of proximity to whiteness and also being like an extension of Western imperialism. Part of the reason they've been so vitriolic is because as left progressives, they have that Antifa mentality and they think morally that they have a blank check to do whatever they want to people they deem to be fascists. And they perceive those as the Israelis in this case. I think these people are also a little bit frustrated by the fact that the rest of the left suddenly won't cooperate with them. They're really shocked that the Democrat political class, especially their leadership core, doesn't at all seem supportive of them. Corporate Democrats would totally repeat all the alarmist rhetoric when it came to Trump or the right, but suddenly hem and haw and get cold feet when it comes to Gaza. Over the past couple of years, there had really been a sort of blurring of these two factions on the left as they converged on virtually all current political issues of note. But recent events have exposed this rift. The progressive left is already used to seeing themselves as a moral vanguard relative to the rest of the country. So centrists and moderate liberals lagging behind them when they felt they were confronted with a moral crisis wasn't necessarily surprising to them. But now it's like they've been suddenly yanked back. And they've been just so rudely acquainted with the reality that they're actually on a leash. They're pretty much powerless to do anything about the situation, and the corporate left also won't commiserate with them. And if I'm not mistaken, Israel has received few, if any, real sanctions from even the EU. They also had this huge meltdown about the issue at the DNC when Kamala finally became their candidate, if you remember.
Hello everyone, it's 2:10 a.m. My name is Abbas Alawi. I'm an uncommitted delegate from Michigan. I'm also one of the leaders of the Uncommitted National Movement. We've been making a request of the Democratic National Convention for a Palestinian American to speak from this stage. We talked to members of Congress, we talked to party leaders, we told them all we need a Palestinian American to speak from this stage. And we were negotiating with the Democratic Party. We were telling them, hey, here's a long list of Palestinian Americans you can choose from. And they said, okay, we're considering it. We can't tell you yes, but we also are not telling you no, and that's a good thing. A few hours ago, they called and said, I have an answer for you. The answer is no. And that was all they said. We think that's unacceptable. We think that this is the party where we shouldn't be silencing people's voices, even when we have disagreements about policy. And so we sat right here, me and my fellow delegates who ran out of options on the inside. So we're standing here on the outside, leaning into our power as regular, everyday people and asking you to join us in asking the party. We need to see a Palestinian American speaker from this stage. Today, Thursday is the last day of the convention. They need to add someone to the program immediately. I have my phone on, it's being charged. I'm waiting for the call from the DNC. They know about this. The vice president and her team know about this. The president and his team know about this. We're waiting to hear from them. Hopefully they'll take the opportunity to unite our party and make sure that there's room for a Palestinian American from the stage. Please join us.
I saw you went to what? Did you tell them? Did you tell them what we're going through? Can you get them to stop? And she knows I'm among my siblings, among the Uncommitted National Movement that has been pushing for the bombs to stop. And I talked to her 2 days ago. She said, your dad tells me you've been going on TV a lot, telling them to stop the bombs. Do you think they're going to listen? And as she was telling me that, she was grateful. She said, at least I can go to Beirut and stay with your uncle for a little while. Hopefully they'll stop by Saturday or Sunday. She makes up arbitrary days and says, maybe it'll stop. She's been telling me how she sleeps with her shoes under her pillow. That way, in case the bomb drops, she has something on her feet when she runs. I have a responsibility. I'm an American, proud to be a Democrat. I have a responsibility to my aunt to push for the same thing I'm sure any of my Democratic colleagues, any of the fellow staffers that I have served with in the United States Capitol, to push for a very reasonable request that our government stop sending the bombs that are being used to kill our family members.
This is also an interesting situation because Bob Vylan losing his visa over this will seem like massive overkill to a lot of people. It will seem disproportionate. So some people's eyebrows will be raised at the situation because while this is, technically perfectly legal because Bob Vylan isn't a citizen, isn't a U.S. citizen, he doesn't have a right to just come into this country, and we aren't obligated to respect his free speech rights for things he says in another country. We're not obligated, we can revoke a visa for any reason. However, this is still notable because the U.S. rarely, if ever, revokes a visa from another Westerner or someone who is a Westerner explicitly or more or less explicitly for a political statement. They've already been doing this to tons of foreign students, too. Really before 2025, it wasn't normal, I should say. But this specific example with Bob Vylan is like the most high profile and notable of this happening. And a lot of them are like really all in on this issue. I think there has been at least 2 or 3 instances of people either self-immolating or attempting to self-immolate, like Aaron Bushnell, over this issue. And they really are quite zealous.
Secondly, I just noticed that you've not condemned Hamas, and you keep. Where was the condemnation for Hamas? Are you saying that what happened on October the 7th was not acceptable?
When you do this,
no, I'm asking
another people in the media do this again. It is to justify. Nothing justifies genocide against the Palestinian people. I'm here to tell you exactly what I think.
Could you just answer
I'm not going to stand here and condemn Hamas. I'm not going to do that.
So you're not going to
I'm going to stand here and condemn the IDF, the occupation, and the role of Western imperialism in that entire region.
Fiona, hang on 1 second, just 1 moment.
I am here to condemn Keir Starmer and David Lammy and the British government and British imperialism's role in this occupation and in this genocide.
You cannot sit there and seriously say you will not condemn Hamas, who have
I can say whatever I like.
Well, you can, but I tell you what, the British public are watching you. The British public are watching you, and if you will not condemn terrorists, people who have caused absolute chaos upon the Palestinian people, the ones that started this conflict, can you see the disdain the British public, the people of Palestine, Jewish people will have for you?
I'm happy to condemn terrorists. Let's start with Keir.
Condemn Hamas.
Let's start with Keir Starmer. Let's start with David Lammy.
Let's start with the people that started this war.
And let's talk about the IDF. Let's talk about the IDF.
Who started the war on October the 7th?
I'll tell you, it began in 1948 with the forced expulsion
No, it did
of
not.
hundreds of thousands of Palestinians.
Further back than that.
We can get into a historical discussion.
You are
it's not
correct.
worthwhile.
You are so correct. In fact, the British were entirely involved in setting up the Zionist state. They were entirely involved in that. So British imperialism historically is responsible for those crimes, and today it is still responsible for those crimes. And what makes you so angry, actually, is the fact that more people support people like Bob Vylan. More people in Britain actually want to see an end to the occupation. They don't support Britain sending arms to Israel.
What people want, Fiona, is an end to war. And they don't support Bob Vylan spouting out vile anti-Semitism. I don't want you to sit here and call the British public racist and anti-Semitic, because they do not support Bob. You just said the vast majority of people support what Bob Vylan said. You just said that. And they do not overwhelmingly. I'm upset that there's a man who's been given a platform to spout anti-Semitism.
But you're not upset about 100,000 Palestinians.
Who said that?
You're not upset about the fact that
the IDF is widely understood to be integral in the continued existence of the State of Israel, and military service is compulsory, with a few exceptions like the ultra-Orthodox and Arab Israelis.
Single time, and death to every single IDF soldier out there as an agent of terror for Israel. Death to the IDF.
So the implications of this statement are fairly far-reaching, as I'm sure you can tell, and at times one wonders if this is perhaps an unbridgeable divide between the progressive left and the corporate left. Just watching that clip, neither of these sides is particularly appealing, and neither has the capacity to create a better future for the West. You'll also notice the complete conviction that young woman had in her statements. Through entertaining and propagating these activists, the corporate left bought into and legitimated a moral framework they don't actually fully agree with, because she's just checkmated them by left-wing standards. The corporate left doesn't have the high ground because they've already gotten into this habit of using historical grievances to excuse the behavior of minority groups. Even if the public is more aligned with their view, there's no way for them to effectively invoke the moral high ground, especially not to left progressives. And the general public isn't even fervently pro-Israel. They're probably, as a general rule, closer to that if we were to place that on a position of on a spectrum, with the opposite end being refusal to condemn Hamas. But I think a lot of people definitely at least kind of get why others are very upset with the State of Israel. Most people can generally acknowledge there's at least some moral complexity to the situation and don't feel super strongly in one way or the other. Even if most people would say, yes, Hamas is a terrorist group, and yes, Israel has a legitimate claim and a right to exist, it's like, how do you expect Palestinians to respond? You know, they're going, our religion is older, so you have to leave even though you've been here for hundreds and hundreds of years, and there are multiple holy sites here. Like, of course, they're not going to be, the Palestinians aren't going to be like, okay, sure, we'll get out of your way, don't mind us. This situation, therefore, seems like it will be a serious and lasting problem for the left. How does the corporate left win progressives' trust back and get them to rally again after being this alienated from the institution of the Democrat Party? Presumably by invoking the specter of Republican fascism again. But who will be scarier than Trump in 2028? And the urgency of the threat, vote blue no matter who, vote blue to stop fascism, the currency that argument carried is being burned through. The corporate left, MSM, can fearmonger all they want about random people getting snatched off the streets because of ICE, but you can no longer convincingly make a case to a left progressive that the Democrat Party isn't fascist or at the very least in some way enabling fascism. So it seems to me the corporate left has burned through a lot of their social capital, and I just don't see a way for them to recover it, shy of, say, a massive, disastrous political move on the part of the GOP, like war with Iran. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up my opinion and analysis on this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting and engaging. I would like to know, do you think there are significant implications to this event? How do you feel about it? Do you feel like this is a sign that there will be some enduring problems on the left? Or do you think this issue will eventually die down and it's something that people will soon move on from in, say, maybe the next couple months? Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to my patrons, Tara, General Jack Ripper, and William, and Red Channels will, of course, catch you in the next one.
A person like you,